So hello. Now the purpose of this video is to explain to you how to turn the dramatis personae into a table so that we can actually align in the center the character name alongside the role that they play. So you can see that I've got it set up at the moment. I have a slightly different color for my role just to give you an indication that that is something slightly different. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can actually sort of get an understanding of what we've actually got. So what we've got here is the name of the character followed by a comma and a space, comma and a space. Now the actual if I look into here and see and just select that block there, you can see that it's character name, that's the actual paragraph style, and if I look at the character style, there's none. As soon as I move into this part here, it's actually a character style of character role. I mean, this is the way that I've got it set up at the moment, but it's just really to say that the first part of this process is that we actually need, instead of this comma, we actually need a tab character instead in order to achieve a good clean table. And the reason that I'm not just simply going to change all of the commas into tabs, which is one sort of approach if you like, is that I would have a problem there because I've got commas in other places. So for example here, Hermia is daughter to Aegeus, comma, in love with Lysander. Well, obviously if I just search for and replace all of the commas to tabs, then that's not going to actually work. So I've got to be really careful with that. So what I'm going to do is to select all of the text so that my search and replace applies to the selection rather than the whole of my text everywhere. And I'm going to now use, actually I need to go back, so for some reason that actually deselected it. So let me just select it again. So what I want to do now is I want to just analyze it a little bit more because I actually want to take that comma out there because that will not help me. In fact, it will hinder me. So I want to make sure that I don't have any commas where I don't need them in the style for the character name. All right, let's go back through this again. So now what I want to do is to go to my edit and I want to go to my find change dialog box. Yes, and we're actually just using the selection. Now in my text, remove any other things that I've got here from the past, and I want to look for a comma and a space. I'm looking for a comma and a space, and I want to change this to a tab. In fact, just because the fact that I want to have 3 columns in this table. The central column I'm going to use for a brace because I've got some places, i.e. my fairies here, I've got those, I'm going to use one word for those fairies. You'll see what I mean? So I'm going to actually put in 2 tabs. That will make 2 columns, or it's going to overall make 4 columns like this. And so what I want to do is to now also make sure that I'm only selecting that where the format is in the paragraph style. I'm looking for a paragraph style of character name. That's the first thing, but also that the character style is none. Let's see if this works. So that's making sure that it's not going to find it within the character role. So let's just say find next, just to make sure. It looks like it's working, so I'm saying change all. Okay, so now we have it. There are my tabs following along from there. Let's just make sure we've got 2 between and not 3. That's good. That looks like good news. Okay, so now what we need to do is to convert this text into a table. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, I'm going to actually also put in an extra tab, or 2 tabs actually, in there as well, so that this text here appears in that 2nd column, or the 3rd column actually. As you'll see, we're going to have 3 columns. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I've selected that text, and I'm going to table, convert text to table. Okay, and also what I'm doing now is just telling it what my column separator is, which is of course the tab, and my row separator is the paragraph. That's what we've got here. Now I have got a style that I've created for my dramatis. Now the only thing about the styling for the table is that you probably just need to focus on whether you have borders, you know, lines surrounding the cells and so forth. And I've already resolved that through this style called dramatis. But you don't need to worry about that. You can just use the basic table to begin with and then go back in and style to remove the borders, but I'm going to stick with that to begin with. Okay, I'm going to click OK to that. Now we've got here our table, and as you can see we've got 3 columns. Each of these cells in here does have borders inside it, but I'm going to leave those where they are for the moment. But what I want to do is to make sure that in my paragraph styles for character name, I'm just going to make sure of certain things. For example, no alignment to the grid. I want to remove that. I'm also going to make sure that I have something a little bit smaller so it doesn't take up quite so much space. And now what I'm going to do is, well, for this style here, the character name for this style, the style for this is going to actually be right aligned, like that, with no spaces after, so I'm going to remove that indent. Now obviously this style here is also right aligned, but what I'm going to do is to actually create a new style for that. In fact, I think I've already got one called character role as a paragraph style as well, and that actually already is styled to be left aligned, but again I want to make sure that there's no extra space there, so we're going to click OK to that. That's fine. So now what we want to do is to remove this or make this much smaller. So I'm going to reduce this down like this. Okay, now you'll see in a moment what I'm planning to do with this extra column. So the best way of dealing with this, really, because it's quite difficult to control the sizes of all of these columns, the best way to do it really is by using the information that's up in the top panel here. So if I, for example, select this left-hand column, then what I can do is to increase the size of that by doing this. Then I can obviously select this column and reduce the size of that. And then I can obviously do the same for this and increase the size of this until we get into a situation where we have enough space for all of this and we've spread this all out. Now I might still need to adjust that, because actually this central column I'm going to make even smaller in a moment. I will certainly do that. But when we select each of these columns, we can also look at our borders around these things and actually change the borders as well. So I can make sure that we have no borders at all. So I can actually just remove all of the borders like this. And the same for this. Just make that 0 and make this 0 here. So now we have no borders at all. And as I say, if we now what we can do is to reduce this even further. Okay, reduce that down. The other thing is that you'll notice over here that we've got some space around the text. We've got space all around actually, so we can reduce these down independently. So I can, for example, make sure that this text in the right hand column goes right up against the right hand edge. And similarly this way, I can make sure there's no space that way. And also if I now select, well, in fact, if I just remove everything here, if I actually reduce that down to 0, that might be a bit tight. So I'm going to just put in 1mm top and bottom. And now I need to echo this here. So I need to make sure that this is 0 here. So that goes right up against the left-hand edge. And then I'm going to put this down to 1mm for there. And I need to do the same for this, strangely, although it doesn't really matter that much. But I need to make sure that this is 0 and this is also 1mm, so it becomes exactly the same. In fact, you can just see, if I now turn off the construction lines, you can see what it's beginning to look like. The only thing is that now what we need to do is to take account of these down here. So the way that we do this is what we basically need to do is to turn this set of cells. I've selected the cells and I can right click with my mouse over the cells like that, and I can merge the cells. So it now just makes them into one, but I only of course need one of these items. Not only that, I actually need to change it to fair is, like so. And then what I need to do as well is to select this actual cell, which of course is a merged cell, and I need to make sure that the text in here is centered, and I can do that with this little controller up in the top of my panel here and put that into the center. Now I also need to do the same for this group here, so I'm going to right click over that and merge those cells. So that's merged, and I'm also going to make sure that is in the center. Now what I can do is to use a brace in there. Now what I've found, I've tried to use a text brace because there are glyphs available to us, but it's actually very difficult to do that. I found the easiest way actually is to use a graphic, and I've got a graphic somewhere here. So I've got this graphic here which I can, I've just taken that from the internet somewhere. I found an image and I've edited it to make it smaller. And what I can do is to actually put it there into that cell. Let's actually zoom in a bit so we can actually manipulate it more accurately. Okay, so having selected that, I can just simply tweak it up. It just needs to be indicating that those 4 characters are all fairies. So, okay, so there we have it. Let's actually just show that properly and get rid of all the construction lines so you can see how that's working. Still a little bit of things to tweak. It looks like I've slightly hidden one of those characters there and maybe need to reduce that down further. Let's just have a look and see if I can do this. So it probably just needs to be tweaked down a little bit so that it's not taking up quite so much space. That seems a little bit better. Okay, so let's look at that again. So there we are. That's the dramatis personae made into a table. I hope that helps someone. Thank you.